Hello and welcome to channel. Here, you'll find intense stories filled with mystery, romance, shocking twists, and secrets that change everything at the very last moment. If you enjoy narratives that make your heart race and keep your mind hooked until the end, subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new stories. This really helps the channel grow Blue Art. Now, before we begin, let me ask you something. Backhand index pointing right. What would you do if you gave alms to a stranger, and that person turned out to be the only one who knew your darkest past? Backhand index pointing right. Would you get into his car, or keep running, even knowing that something far worse was still coming? So get ready. Because this is not just a story about poverty or wealth. It's a story about impossible choices, secrets buried for years, and a love strong enough to challenge powerful men, deadly lies, and a past that never forgets. Open book. The story begins now. She asked for alms, and revealed a past that shocked the millionaire. A trembling hand held the disposable coffee cup with only 3 coins at the bottom. But it wasn't the coins that made Marcus Valori's heart stop, it was the eyes. Those emerald green eyes he hadn't seen in 17 years. "Please, sir. Anything helps." The hoarse voice barely concealed the French accent he knew so well. Marcus froze on the sidewalk of Avenida Paulista, his driver already holding the Bentley's door open, while hurried executives passed by like water flowing around stones. She hadn't recognized him. Or she was pretending not to. Marcus's Italian suit cost more than most people earned in a year. The gray at his temples added distinction to his 42 years. According to Forbes, he was the 10th richest man in Brazil. And she was unrecognizable beneath layers of dirt, worn clothes, and the sharp smell of someone who slept on the streets. "Your name?" Marcus heard his own voice sound strange, distant. "What's your name?" The woman lowered her gaze. "Names don't matter on the streets, sir." "They matter to me." He stepped forward, ignoring his driver's alarmed look. "You look like someone I once knew. A long time ago." She laughed, a broken, joyless sound. "Everyone says that. You remind me of someone. It's always the same excuse not to give anything." "Marguerite," Marcus whispered, testing the name like thin ice. "Marguerite Beaumont." The cup fell to the ground. Coins rolled across the sidewalk, and for one eternal second, they stared at each other. In her eyes, Marcus saw the same terror he had seen on that last night in Paris, when she disappeared from the hotel suite, leaving nothing behind but a scribbled note. "Forgive me. You never really knew me." "No." She stepped back, stumbling. "You're mistaken." "I'm not." "Get in the car." It wasn't a request. "I can't." "Now." The authority in his voice made pedestrians turn their heads. "Or I'll call the police and tell them about the woman who stole €2 million from me in 2009. Your choice." It was a lie. She had never stolen anything from him. But he needed answers, and that woman, that ghost, knew something that could destroy everything he had built. Marguerite looked at the open Bentley door like someone staring at the entrance of a prison. Her shoulders slumped in defeat. "You don't know what you're getting into, Marcus," she murmured as she got into the car. "You never did." Marcus's penthouse apartment offered a 360-degree view of Sao Paulo. Marguerite stood by the bathroom window, clean for the first time in months, wearing a white silk robe. She looked 10 years older than she should have. 40 that looked like 50. Marcus watched from the doorway, holding 2 glasses of Scotch whiskey. "Why did you run?" The question he had rehearsed 1,000 times came out simple and direct. She took the glass without looking at him. "Because staying would have meant your death." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. "Explain. Do you remember the man who appeared that night? At the restaurant?" Marguerite turned, and Marcus saw silent tears running down her face. "The one with the ruby ring?" Marcus remembered. A short man with cold eyes who had stared at Marguerite for long seconds before leaving without ordering anything. She had gone pale, said she felt sick, and asked to return to the hotel. 2 hours later she was gone. "That man," Marguerite continued, her voice trembling. Was Dmitry Volkov. Do you recognize the name? Marcus did. Anyone who followed international news did. Dmitry Volkov was a Russian oligarch linked to arms trafficking, money laundering, and at least 6 unproven murders. He is my husband. The glass slipped from Marcus's hand, shattering on the marble floor. My what? I was 19 when I was forced to marry him. My father owed money. A lot of money. Dmitry offered a solution. He would forgive the debt if I married him. She drank the whiskey in one gulp. I spent 4 years as his property. 4 years being used? Displayed? Abused. Marguerite. When I finally managed to escape, I knew he would never stop looking for me. So I hid. Changed my name, my country, my life. I met you in Paris because I thought I was safe. I thought I had made it. She laughed bitterly. But Dmitry has eyes everywhere. When he appeared at that restaurant, I knew. He had found me. And if he found out about you, about us, he would have killed you just to make me suffer. Marcus felt the ground disappear beneath his feet. So you ran. To protect me. To protect us both. I went back to Russia. Tried to negotiate. Offered to return if he left you alone. Her voice broke. He agreed. On one condition. What? That I would never try to escape again. And that I would give him an heir. The silence that followed was not empty. It was filled with every unspoken word, every impossible choice, every pain that can exist between two people. You have a child, Marcus whispered. I had. The word came out like a blade. He died 3 years ago. Leukemia. My God! Dmitry blamed me. Said weak blood is useless. After I buried my boy. She swallowed hard. I ran again. This time forever. I managed to get to Brazil, but without money, without documents, without anything. And then I just gave up. Marcus stepped closer, but she raised her hand. No. You don't understand. Dmitry is still looking for me. He always will be. And now that you took me off the streets, now that I'm here in your apartment. She looked at him with pure desperation. You've just painted a target on our backs. As if on cue, Marcus's phone vibrated. Unknown number. He answered. A voice with a heavy Russian accent echoed. Mr. Villori. What a pleasure to finally speak to the man who met my wife. I have a proposal. Tomorrow noon at your office. Come alone. Or the next person you see begging on the streets will be your driver. Piece by piece. The call ended. Marcus looked at Marguerite, who had collapsed on the floor, hugging her knees. He knows, she cried. He always knew. And now he's going to kill us. Both of us. Marcus's office on the 42nd floor had glass walls that made everything feel fragile, temporary. He waited alone, as instructed, although private security was positioned on every floor of the building. Not that it would help against a man like Dmitry Volkov. At exactly noon, the door opened. But it wasn't Dmitry who entered. It was a woman. Tall, blonde, wearing an impeccable black suit. She smiled, the kind of smile that never reached her eyes. Mr. Villori. My name is Svetlana. I represent Mr. Volkov. She sat down without being invited, crossing her legs with calculated precision. He apologizes for not coming personally. Urgent matters in Moscow. What does he want? Straight to the point. I appreciate that. Svetlana opened a folder, removing photographs. Photos of Marcus and Marguerite entering the building. In the elevator. Her cleaning herself. Them talking. Is your boss a voyeur? My boss is a businessman. And he has a business proposal. She slid a document across the desk. Marguerite Beaumont, or Anastasia Volkova, her legal name, is the property of Mr. Volkov under a marital contract recognized in Russia. He is willing to relinquish that property. In exchange for? $50 million. Marcus almost laughed. He's selling his ex-wife? No. He's selling silence. Svetlana leaned forward. Mr. Valori, you are a respected businessman. Your company just went public. You have investors, partners, a reputation. How do you think they would react if they learned you are hiding the fugitive wife of an international criminal? That you are technically committing a crime by helping her escape? The trap closed. 50 million, Svetlana continued. And he disappears. Never looks for her again. You can live your life. Or, she let the word hang like poison. I leave here and tomorrow every major newspaper in Brazil receives a complete dossier. Photos. Documents. Witnesses ready to say you knew exactly who she was when you took her off the streets. This is blackmail. This is business. She smiled again. You have 24 hours to decide. When Svetlana left, Marcus stared at the photographs scattered across the desk. In one of them, he and Marguerite stood by the apartment window, her head resting on his shoulder. They looked happy. He picked up the phone. Not to call lawyers or security. He dialed a number he hadn't used in years. A number he had promised himself never to use unless there was no other choice. Hello? The voice on the other end was young female. Sophie, Marcus said, closing his eyes. I need to talk to you about your mother. Marguerite was in the kitchen when Marcus returned. She had cooked ratatouille, the dish she had made for him on their first night in Paris. You didn't have to, he began. I did. I need to feel useful for something other than causing problems. She served 2 plates. Did he come? He sent a representative. Wants 50 million. Marguerite dropped the plate. Tomato sauce spread across the floor like blood. 50. Marcus, you can't. That's insane. He'll take the money and kill me anyway. That's how he works. Marguerite. Marcus held her shoulders. I need you to be completely honest with me now. No more secrets. No more half-truths. She nodded, tears already forming. Your son. The one who died. What was his name? Why does that matter? What was his name? Victor, she whispered. Victor Alexandrovich Volkov. Marcus pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. A photo of a young girl with dark hair and emerald green eyes, no more than 17 years old. She stood in a school in Zurich, wearing an immaculate uniform. And her? Marcus asked calmly. Who is she? Marguerite collapsed into a chair. How did you answer the question? Sophie, she said broken. My daughter. My Sophie. And there it was. The final piece of the puzzle. You told me your son had died. Marcus continued, each word heavy as lead. But you didn't tell me you had twins. That when Victor died, Dmitri decided the girl had no value. That he planned to sell her to one of his business partners. That you took her out of Russia in the middle of the night and hid her in Switzerland before fleeing. Marcus. And do you know what's most interesting? Marcus went on. Sophie Beaumont. 14 years old. Registered as your niece, living in a boarding school in Zurich under the care of an aunt who receives money every month through shell accounts. He placed the phone on the table. Where does that money come from, Marguerite? How does a homeless woman in Sao Paulo pay for private school in Zurich? She covered her face with her hands. I work. Her voice came out muffled. On the streets, yes, but also odd jobs. Cleaning. Anything. I send everything to her. Everything. I eat leftovers, sleep in shelters, but Sophie has to have a life. She has to be safe. And does Dmitri know? He suspects. That's why I'm here in Brazil. That's why I'm on the streets, invisible. If he confirms Sophie exists, that I hid his daughter. Marguerite looked at Marcus with the eyes of a trapped animal. He'll kill her. Not out of revenge. But because she's proof of my defiance. Of my theft. To Dmitri, stealing his property, and a daughter's property, is worse than killing him. Marcus sat down slowly. So his proposal isn't about you. He realized. It's about Sophie. He knows she exists. He knows where she is. And he's giving me a choice, pay 50 million, or he goes after her. No! Marguerite stood up, grabbing his arm. You can't pay. You can't give him what he wants. Men like Dimitri, they always want more. First it's 50 million. Then 100. Then your company. Then your life. He never stops. Then what do you suggest? That I let him go after a 14-year-old girl? I suggest, a third voice cut in, that the two of you stop underestimating Dmitry Volkov. They turned. Svetlana was standing in the doorway, a gun in her hand. How did you? Marcus began. You think a man like Mr. Volkov would send only one representative? Svetlana laughed. I've been here since you brought her home. Microphones. Cameras. Every word. Every secret. She looked at Marguerite. Especially the secret about Sophie. No, Marguerite whispered. The proposal has changed. Svetlana continued calmly, keeping the gun steady. 70 million. Transferred within the next 2 hours. Or Sophie Beaumont will be found dead in her dormitory before dawn. You're bluffing, Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. Am I? Svetlana pulled out another phone and showed a live feed. A girl sleeping in a bed. Dark hair spread across the pillow. Through the bedroom window, the lights of Zurich were visible. In the corner of the screen, a timer, 01:59:37. 01:59:36. 01:59:35. 2 men are 3 rooms away, Svetlana explained calmly. Armed. Waiting for my order. You have 2 hours to make the transfer, Mr. Valori. Or Sophie dies live for her mother to watch. Marguerite fell to her knees, a scream tearing from her throat. And Marcus finally understood, there was no way out. There never had been. All right, Marcus said, raising his hands. I'll pay. But 70 million takes time to transfer. I'll need at least. You have 2 hours. Svetlana cut him off. And before you think of doing something heroic, know this: if my connection drops, if I miss a 15-minute check-in, or if any police show up at that boarding school. She pointed at the screen. The order is immediate execution. Marcus looked at Marguerite on her knees, then at the screen showing Sophie sleeping, unaware of the danger. 01:57:12. 01:57:11. 01:57:10. I'll need access to my computer, he said. In the home office. Svetlana motioned with the gun. Go. I'm coming with you. And Marguerite stays here, where I can see her. They moved into the home office. Marcus sat in the leather chair, his fingers trembling over the keyboard. Svetlana positioned herself behind him, gun aimed at his back. A transfer of this size will trigger alarms, Marcus said as he typed. My bank will call. They'll require verbal confirmation. Biometric recognition. Then give them what they want. But no tricks. Marcus opened the private banking interface. 70 million was a fortune, but not impossible for someone of his wealth. The problem wasn't the money. The problem was that even if he paid, Dmitri would never leave them alone. Marguerite, he called out. I need you to bring my flash drive. It's in the dresser drawer, master bedroom. It has the authentication codes. He heard her footsteps moving away. Svetlana frowned. You don't need a flash drive for a bank transfer. For amounts over 50 million, my bank requires 3-factor authentication. Password, biometrics, and a physical token. Marcus looked at her. Do you want the money or not? 01:52:43. 01:52:42. Svetlana hesitated, then gestured with the gun. Hurry! Marguerite returned 2 minutes later, holding a red flash drive. Her hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped it. Marcus plugged it into the computer. A window popped up asking for a password. He typed. Access denied? Damn, he muttered, trying again. Access denied? What's the problem? Svetlana asked, tension rising in her voice. The password. I don't remember it. It's been months since I last used it. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. Wait. I wrote it down. It's in the safe. You have a safe in the apartment? Behind the painting. In the living room. I just need. I'll get it, Svetlana decided. You stay here. And Marguerite, you too. Both of you sitting where I can see you. She left, keeping the gun trained on them until she disappeared down the hallway. The second she was out of sight, Marcus jumped to his feet. Marguerite did the same, and Marcus noticed she was no longer shaking. Her eyes were sharp, focused. How long? She whispered. 30 seconds at most. The safe has a silent alarm. The moment she opens it, it triggers. And the flash drive? Virus. The second I plugged it in, it started broadcasting her location to every intelligence agency interested in Dmitry Volkov. CIA, MI6, Interpol, FSB. Marcus gave a grim smile. She's carrying her phone in her pocket. In 10 minutes, satellites will triangulate her position to within a meter. And Sophie? She was never in danger. A new voice entered the room. They both turned. A young woman stood in the doorway. Dark hair. Emerald green eyes. 17 years old. Marguerite went pale. Sophie? Hi, Mom, the girl said softly, with a faint French accent. I miss you. But you're in Zurich. I saw you on the screen. You were sleeping. That was Clara, my roommate. Same height, similar hair. Marcus called me 3 days ago. He explained everything. Got me out of Switzerland and brought me here in secret. Sophie looked at Marcus with gratitude. He said you were in danger. That we needed to protect you. Marguerite staggered. Marcus caught her. 3 days? She whispered. You knew for 3 days? Since the moment I found you on the street, I started investigating. Marcus admitted. I hired the best private investigators. I learned about Sophie. About Dmitri. About everything. And I prepared a plan. A scream came from the living room. Svetlana. She discovered the safe is empty, Marcus said calmly. And in 3, 2, 1. The apartment exploded into motion. Doors burst open. Men in black, not Marcus's private security, but Brazilian federal agents, stormed in. Svetlana appeared in the hallway, gun raised, but froze when she saw the rifles aimed at her. Svetlana Kuznetsova, one of the agents said in Portuguese. You are under arrest for extortion, death threats, and conspiracy to commit murder. We have an international arrest warrant from Interpol. The gun slipped from her hand. 01:47:23. 01:47:22. The timer, Marguerite gasped. The men in Zurich. They don't exist, Sophie said gently. Or rather, they do, but they're Swiss police officers disguised as maintenance workers. They'd been there for 2 days. Svetlana thought she controlled everything, but Marcus flipped the game. Svetlana looked at Marcus with pure hatred. Dmitri will kill all of you. He has resources. Men. Power. Had. One of the agents corrected, glancing at his tablet. Breaking news. Dmitry Volkov was arrested in Moscow 20 minutes ago. Joint operation between the FSB and Interpol. It appears someone handed over very detailed evidence of his criminal activities to Russian authorities, including offshore account locations, accomplice names, and proof of treason against the Russian state. Marcus said nothing. He simply watched as Svetlana was led away in handcuffs. When the agents left, the apartment fell silent. Sophie walked over to Marguerite, gently touching her face. You're so thin, Mom. Marguerite collapsed, hugging her daughter. Sobs tore through her body, years of fear, guilt, and pain finally released. Marcus stepped back discreetly, giving them space. But Sophie reached out and took his hand. You too, Marcus. You're part of this. And there, In the last rays of sunlight pouring through the apartment windows, the three of them stood together. An unlikely family, formed not by blood, but by impossible choices and love stronger than fear. 6 months later. The small café in Montmartre hadn't changed in 17 years. The same round metal tables, the same striped awnings, the same smell of coffee and croissants. Marcus watched Marguerite and Sophie laughing together as they tried to choose among 1,000 dessert options. Marguerite had gained weight, color had returned to her cheeks. She wore a simple but lovely dress, her hair cut and cared for. She looked like the woman he had known all those years ago. But different. Free. "Are you going to keep staring, or are you going to help us?" Sophie called out, smiling. "You two are impossible," Marcus replied, standing up and joining them. Sophie had returned to school, not in Zurich, but in Sao Paulo, closer to home. Marguerite had started working with an NGO that helped people experiencing homelessness. "Who better to understand," she said, "than someone who has been there?" As for Dmitri, his criminal empire collapsed within weeks. Evidence after evidence surfaced. Witnesses came forward. He was sentenced to 30 years in a maximum security prison in Siberia. Svetlana made a deal. In exchange for protection, she gave up every secret, every account, every name. She would spend the rest of her life in witness protection, but at least she would be alive. "Marcus," Marguerite said softly, pulling him from his thoughts. "Where were you?" "Just thinking." He smiled. "About how much everything has changed." "Changed?" Sophie raised an eyebrow. "You call a cinematic rescue change? I call it an epic transformation." They laughed. A waiter brought 3 espressos and a plate of macarons. "Can I ask you something?" Marguerite said after a sip of coffee. "Why did you do all this? You could have left me on that sidewalk. Called the police. Gone on with your life. Why risk everything?" Marcus was silent for a long moment. "Because when I saw you," he finally said, "holding that cup with 3 coins, empty eyes, I saw what giving up does to someone. And I remembered the note you left 17 years ago. You never really knew me." He took her hand across the table. "I spent 17 years thinking I'd been a fool. That I had loved a lie. But when you told me the truth, about Dmitri, about Sophie, about everything you sacrificed, I finally understood. I never really knew you, because the real you was braver, stronger, and more incredible than I could have ever imagined." Tears streamed down Marguerite's face. "So yes," Marcus continued, "I risked everything. Because some people are worth every risk in the world." Sophie stood up, wiping her own eyes. "Okay, that was very emotional, and now I need air. I'm going for a walk. You too, do what old people in love do. Talk. Stare into each other's eyes. Be gross." She walked away laughing, leaving Marcus and Marguerite alone. "She's incredible," Marcus said. "She's you," Marguerite replied. "Same absurd courage. Same irrational loyalty." "Irrational?" "Completely." She smiled. "And I love you for it." They were the first words of love they had spoken in 17 years. Marcus leaned in and kissed her gently. The kiss tasted of coffee, second chances, and unwritten futures. When they pulled apart, Marguerite whispered, "So what happens now?" "Now?" Marcus looked at the streets of Paris, at Sophie dancing among tourists, at the sunset painting everything gold. "Now we live. Truly live. Without fear. Without running. Without secrets. Without secrets," she repeated, and for the first time in 20 years, she believed it was possible. Years later, when they told the story to friends, no one fully believed it. It was too dramatic. Too many coincidences. Too many twists. But Marcus always ended the story the same way. "Life isn't a clean narrative. It's chaotic, brutal, unfair. But sometimes, very rarely, it gives you a second chance. And when that happens, you don't question it. You don't hesitate. You hold on tight and never let go." And Marguerite always added, with that smile that still made his heart skip. Especially when that second chance is asking for alms on Avenida Paulista with only 3 coins in a cup. The end. But if you think this is truly the last word, there is a photograph, kept in a safety deposit box in a Swiss bank. A photo of a child with blue eyes, not green, blonde hair, not dark, around 6 years old. On the back, a date, 2009. And a name no one ever mentioned, Alexander. But that is a story for another day. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If this story touched you, surprised you, or kept you thinking, let us know in the comments. Your thoughts mean a lot to us. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. New episodes, new emotions, and unforgettable twists are always coming. And now I want to ask you, backhand index pointing right, do you believe in second chances? Or do you think some pasts can never be rewritten? Share your answer below. Until the next story, take care, and thank you for being here. Open Book Sparkles.